Hello, and welcome to Leadership as a Philosophy, Not a Checklist, The Problem. So, this is the first section, first video, first chapter in the discussion that I want to have about how do we fix the leadership sine wave or the leadership bathtub. After this video, we'll do a little description on that. I'm going to illustrate the problem by telling a story about leadership situation that I witnessed sort of off from the side, and it's sort of the story that got me thinking about this in great detail. So Ellen, we're talking about a kind of a medium to large size company. Ellen was in charge of a shipping and receiving department for the parts, both for the machinery in the company, and then the company also made parts, so they sent that stuff out. Her team had the best safety record, the highest retention record, the highest production numbers, the least number of human resources incidents, sort of the best morale. The general description of that team was, if you went and were hanging around with them, it was like being near a family, because they'd pick on each other a little bit, but they would take care of each other. Nobody was pointing fingers. People were allowed to make mistakes as long as they weren't catastrophically illegal things. They were taken care of. There was really good integrity. The facilities maintenance, equipment accountability, all those systems and processes were almost at 100%. And a great deal of that was attributed to Ellen. However, if you went and asked her, she would say, it's not me, I'm not doing all the work, the team's doing the work, we're just following the plan. So Ellen was a great example for leadership. She had basically probably the best reputation in the company. The team had a really good reputation. Everything was amazing. It was the sort of thing that you would hear and read about in leadership books, and this is what's possible, blah, blah, blah. But nobody ever really witnessed. So that's Ellen. So now we're going to talk about Karen. Karen was in charge of a small 7-person administrative section in the company, and their reputation was terrible. So personnel actions were hardly ever done on time, and most of the time there was lots of corrections, lots of stuff sent back. It was like the perfect bureaucracy. The morale of the team was low. You'd hear people backstabbing each other all the time. No one took accountability if they made a mistake, or if there was a problem, or if something needed to get solved. It was always a lot of finger pointing. Their integrity, in other words, their sort of record on filling out paperwork correctly, was terrible. There were many times that you would see Karen berating somebody in front of their peers right there in the office space. Or she would be sort of generally yelling at the whole team because things weren't going right, things weren't being done to standard. And you could just sort of feel edginess when you were around that team. People that got there were always trying to get out. People would get hired or come in for a job interview, and if they had any sense, go by and ask, because they were going to work in that department, what it was like. Everybody they talked to threw Karen under the bus. So they had a hard time keeping positions filled. It was just a big pain in the neck of the company. Well, a couple of interesting facts about Ellen and Karen. So Ellen and Karen had both been to the management or leadership development course that the company required if you were going to be in charge of people. Great. So it was a 2-week course, and normal things that you would expect out of a class like that. Well, Karen was the distinguished graduate. She got a perfect score on every test that went through when she went through that course. So she had a big certificate and a big plaque, and everybody's like, oh, she's amazing. She's this wonderful thing. But she was in charge of these 7 people, and it was terrible. Ellen graduated somewhere in the middle or close to the bottom. So that was sort of the way things were. Well, upper management decided, hey, since we've got this person that was this distinguished graduate from the leadership course, we should put them in charge of a bigger team. We're going to take Ellen, because she didn't do so well, we're going to go put her in charge of systems. Well, a couple of Ellen and Karen's peers went to upper management and said, hey, I'm not sure this is a great idea, because Ellen is obviously doing a great job with that team. They've got a great reputation. Here's all the good things. Everybody knows all the good things. Here's all the bad things going on, and Karen's in charge. Upper management said, hey, look, she was the distinguished graduate. We should put her in charge. So they were going to go through with it. Interesting dynamics started to happen. When Ellen's team found out that Karen was coming, some people started to quit or started talking bad or immediately became paranoid about their jobs, didn't want to get yelled at. And then the morale in Karen's team started to go up because they heard that she was leaving. They didn't even know who the new boss was going to be. They were delighted that they were going to get somebody new. So as things started to get closer to the changeover, Ellen scheduled some briefings for Karen. So her department heads or her team leads came through and briefed on what their systems and processes were and what their metrics were and all that sort of stuff. And Karen, in front of Ellen, started questioning their integrity, asking if they were lying. Now, in the entire time Ellen had been in charge, there had never been a single fraud, integrity issue. None of that stuff had ever happened. Karen was just assuming that everybody was lying. So people started really getting nervous on that team. A couple of people that were on that team went to upper management and said, hey, this is not going to, here's what happened. This is not going to go well. Upper management said, look, she was the distinguished graduate. She's going to be great. It's going to be fine. Maybe she's just not good at smaller teams. She needs a bigger team. So Ellen left. Karen took over. The first day, Karen calls everybody in, calls in all the department heads or whatever you want to call it, starts berating them, saying that things were going to change. The casual attitude that everybody had to go away. There was clearly some fraud going on because there's no way that numbers could be that good. And she was going to set things straight, and it was going to be her way or the highway. Well, great. And then she proceeded to berate everybody that she went and briefed because they didn't have every number that she was conceivably asking for at their fingertips. They all kept in the book. They said, well, let me go get my book just so I can give you the right number for today. They got blasted. So within a week, 15 people quit, outright quit. And another 15 people had gone to upper management saying they wanted out of that department because Karen was being a terrorist. Upper management said, hey, it's okay. I mean, hey, you need to go back there and deal with it. So within a week, a whole bunch of people were stabbing each other in the back, were scared for their jobs, were more concerned or were so scared to make any sort of mistake or decision that productivity and shipping and everything sort of ground to a halt because they were all sitting around waiting for Karen to tell them what to do, because every time they did something on their own, they got yelled at. So in 1 week, that department was destroyed. And this was by the person that had been the distinguished graduate from the leadership/management course. So what did she learn in that course? Well, I don't know. But that's what the company said that they were looking for in their leaders. However, Ellen's example of leadership was sort of a model for what the company wanted. So that was my frustration. That's where I started to ask the questions. I said, how is this possible? How is it possible that we can have the distinguished graduate from the management course destroy an organization, and the person who completed it somewhere in the middle or just barely passing was this stellar example? There has to be a way to fix that. There has to be a way to not have that happen, because what happened? A whole bunch of people's lives were destroyed. Went from having a family type organization to being a mess. Anyway, right after this, we're going to talk about, just going to go through a slide presentation sort of describing the same thing. And that'll be it for the video. So thank you so much for your time. Alrighty, so welcome to the instructional portion of Leadership is a philosophy, not a checklist. The problem. So what we're going to discuss in this chapter is what I alluded to in the video preceding this, which is the how do we fix the leadership bathtub or the leadership sine wave. I liked sine wave before, but it's really not a sine wave, as was pointed out by somebody I was consulting with on this project. So what's the problem? It's pretty simple. You've got basically your typical distribution. So you have a leadership ideal. What's that? Well, leadership ideal is somebody who takes care of their people, tells the truth, gets the job done, has a good environment, is not some megalomaniac that's trying to take over the world, and is basically somebody that people follow, even though that person may not be given a whole bunch of orders and commands all the time. So where's the problem come from? And why do we want to solve it, right? So here's the problem. So here's your leadership ideal. So we just described what that person's like. And let's say that this is the beginning of a new company, or we're just going to start this in the timeline of some other organization. So you hire somebody that's close to that ideal. Well, good job. Excellent. And good things happen when this is going on. But then over time, this is what happens. So you start hiring or promoting people that are not anywhere near the ideal. And so then here's your bathtub, right? So over time, somebody's good, worse, better. And then next person is here, next person is here. And so this is what you end up with. Well, okay, if this is your ideal and this is how you're the distribution of how you're hiring people, then that's the sine wave. So I guess the reason I like the sine wave idea is because it's going up and down and it's a mess. It's not even regular, so it's not even predictable. The only predictability is that it's going to happen. So now here's your average, which is not the ideal. Okay, so there's some problems with this. The most important problem is, what is this like for the employees in the company? All of them. The leadership, the managers, the actual employees, the people that are doing all the work. They have to suffer through all of this. So this is why this has got to get solved, because people are not happy when this is going on. There's several bad things that happen when this is the environment in an organization. One, it's bad for the employees, pardon me, because they don't like a bunch of changes. People just want to come to work, do their job, go home. If you get a chance, go watch the video that Simon Sinek did called Why Leaders Eat Last. Talks about in life in general, but when you're coming into work, if you're coming in, the environment's good, you're taken care of, you get rewarded for your job, then you get a little bit of dopamine, which means that then you're in a better mood and you're more healthy. And you want to do good things. You want to provide input because you start trying to expand out a little bit. Another great example is Jordan Peterson talking about the dopamine that you get from being successful and doing a good job. It makes you stand up straight, makes your health better. So that's one good thing that happens if you've got good leadership. Second, what's it like for the management? A lot of people complain about managers and complain about all these issues that are going on. Well, I say that leadership solves bad managers too. And then the other thing is, if you've got people that are actual leaders that have the leadership talent, well, they're working their butts off to try to recover from these low points. So we got to fix that, right? And so these are the things that happen. This is what will happen with people in an organization where this chaos is happening. When the leadership is good, so you're above the average and close to the ideal, then retention, morale, culture, purpose, productivity, development, all that's higher or better. So, I mean, you can look at an organization now, just knowing this now, you can look and say, oh, wow, they've got terrible turnover. People are cranky. People are got sour faces all the time. People are backstabbing. People just kind of meandering around, not doing a whole lot of work. They're not being taken care of by the company, and nobody trusts the leadership. You can see it now. So that's bad leadership. That's it. Leadership is terrible in that organization. I hear excuses all the time. I don't buy any of them. So that's the point. So if we know this is the problem, if we know that these are the good and bad repercussions of good leadership and bad leadership, why do we allow this to happen? I'm waiting for an answer because ostensibly, all of these people, let's just pick a tier in an organization somewhere, all these people have gone through the same training program. They've all been to the same management development system. Okay, well, the system must be terrible if this is the results, or the program isn't good if these are the results, or perhaps this is what you really want. But look at the evidence. The whole purpose of all these videos is to pay attention to the evidence. Look at what's in front of your eyes. And then these are the consequences. So people are miserable when this is going on. You've got somebody who's doing a good job, taking care of everybody, then this person's all self-serving and backstabbing. And then nobody trusts the company anymore. Because look at your average. You've got 3 people that are above the average line, which still isn't your ideal, and 70% are bad. Well, that's what you have in your company then. That's your culture. You own that. And part of the reason for this is because we don't put leaders in leadership spots. We don't have leaders doing leadership things. You end up with people that don't have what you're looking for as the ideal, but they follow some system. I don't know. That's the problem, right? So these things are good, or these things are positive when there's good leadership, and they're negative when there's bad leadership. So now you can just look. That's why I say you can stand outside as an employee, as a manager, and as a leader and go, here's the problem in our company. We don't have good leadership. Our leadership's not communicate, blah, blah, blah. So then this is the problem. How do we attenuate this leadership sine wave, bathtub, and its detrimental consequences? Because these are the detriments. So why do we let this happen? I refuse to believe, and this is what's been bugging me for a long time, I refuse to believe that we can't do something about this as a society, as a planet. Okay, so I refuse to accept the fact that we can't fix this, right? The only thing that we haven't really been able to figure out with all of our scientific and amazing brains is how to take a human being and go the speed of light. There's, theories, sure, but we can do that. We can do everything but that, but we can't figure out leadership. I disagree. I honestly think that what we're not doing is looking at something and paying close attention to it and looking at the evidence and finding out what's going on. So we're going to unravel that throughout this whole video series. But why do you need good leadership? Well, because this is what happens to your employees. Work sucks. And then having a crappy leader makes it worse. So why would we do anything to make our employees have a worse experience? I don't know. Why aren't we trying to do everything we can to fix that? I don't know. Because here's what I believe can happen. So the answer to the question is we got to identify and develop leaders, not people in charge. Something I've heard a million times. People say, oh, leadership's action, not position. Okay, well then if that's the truth, then that means that some of the people that you have in leadership positions are not leaders. And there's people throughout your organization that are leaders that nobody's paying attention to. So you have the answer in your own organization. It's not some mystical thing. Okay, so let's look at what could happen. So we got our same leadership ideal. We hire our same person here. And then over time, we replace this leader with another person that's an actual leader that has the leadership talent. And then we keep replacing them. So what happens is this leader here doesn't have to fix all of the damage caused by this dip in the bathtub. And so this leader is able to say, oh, look, here's a couple of things that we could tune up. Here's a couple of things we could fix while still taking care of the people and making sure the morale's good. So now your organization gets this much better because you're not screwing around down here. Sorry, I'm getting passionate. So you keep doing this, and over time, this is your average. So you still have the sine wave or the bathtub, but if you keep picking people that are actual leaders in doing this, your organization is going to consistently get better. How? Well, we're going to talk about that in the next few slides. What has happened as I've gone through this is I've sort of tried to unravel the whole concept, and it's all there. It's nothing new, like I said at the very beginning. There's nothing new here. Everybody knows this exists. I just think we're not paying attention to it. And we've never tried some of these solutions. But what would happen if you did this? Look at this. So even a downturn is still above the ideal. So now this is your culture. Hey, I want to go work in that company. Why? Man, the leadership there, woo, they do a good job. You don't get to be a boss there unless you're taking care of your people and making sure that everything's being done correctly and looking out for danger. And you go there and you're going to be taken care of as an employee. And then, oh, hey, you go over there as a leader. You get to be leadership stuff. You're not walking around goofing around with silly systems and processes that don't work. You're able to fix things. I mean, the whole culture, the whole environment, everything about your company exudes better. And then these things happen too. What's the monetary savings? What's all this sort of stuff? What's it like for the employees if they've always got a leader in a position to take care of them? So how? Well, that's, like I said, that's what we're going to unravel. Question, how do we fix this problem? Identify and develop leaders. It's not the way that you think. Because I said identify a leader. It's not take somebody who's really good at systems and put them in charge of people. Well, how do you do that? So the next thing that we're going to talk about is, as I went through and studied this, is the definition of things. How do you define something? Because a bunch of words have been used halfway and incorrectly and everything else, and we got to fix that too. But once again, it's nothing that nobody doesn't already know. Just got to pay attention to it and think. Use your brain. Okay, appreciate your time. Sorry for getting passionate and maybe a little sloppy, but this is a big deal. I think that this is going to be interesting for you. And as I ask, please go through the whole series. And as always, I appreciate your time. I hope you have a good day.